Good evening, everybody. This is Kelly Blackman, and this is How to Win at Everything. I am here with Jasmine. Jasmine, I'm going to tell you, I butcher everyone's name. I don't know why. Escalera. Escalera?
Yes, that's it, Escalera.
Look, it only took me twice this time.
I love
uh,
it.
Look, you guys, Jasmine. Well, first off, I'm gonna let her talk about how awesome she is. But first, before we do that, I'm gonna play my cheesy intro, which I've made special today for Jasmine.
Oh,
So
I
check this
love
out, you
it.
guys.
I need to record it. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
I don't know. I don't know if you can see me backstage. I'm just.
You
Mm,
you
mm.
like how did you put together all the best pictures of me?
I haven't seen any bad ones. I was just like, oh man, like Jasmine is awesome because she gives me like 100 different photos to use. So it was so good. It was so easy. Thank you for being photogenic. Thank you for really a lot that you're doing. So
Thanks.
before I jump in and I start bragging about you, take a second. Tell us about you. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you're doing that is really awesome.
Oh my gosh,
Don't hold back,
where
Jasmine.
do
This is
I
the time,
start?
right?
Well, first off, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Marlboro Projects. I have to give big ups to Brooklyn because it's where it all started. I was born to Jose Escalera and Erna Escalera, and my dad did not graduate high school. My
Mhm,
mom became a teacher much later in life.
mhm,
And so I grew up really just having a wonderful childhood, really was integrated into my community. But when I started, my career in STEM, I do have to say, being the first to go to college, being the first to go to graduate school, being the first to really hold a six-figure job in my family, it made me have a lot of challenges when it came to my
mhm,
career. There wasn't anyone to support me in terms of how to really navigate this area of my life because I was the first one to do it. And
yeah.
so there was my career, I always tell individuals, and this hurts my heart to say now as an extremely confident woman, but I felt like I was conforming a lot, code
Mhm,
switching, trying
mhm,
to create success in the way that everyone else thought I should be successful. And it
mhm,
never really felt authentic or aligned to me because being part of being successful in this very white male dominated culture was acting like everyone else. And frankly, I was not a white man. So to me, that meant stripping this identity that I had of the girl who grew up in the projects. I didn't even want to tell anyone about that.
Oh yeah. Oh
It
yeah.
really meant, not showing up as my boisterous Latina self. So I really felt in my career like I was having a hard time being me. And so after a lot of trials and tribulations, to the point where I was having panic attacks, feeling anxiety going to work, I finally
Mm,
said, like, no more of the BS. I am truly going to become or re step into that person that I am, that I know that I am, that little girl from the projects who was running it. And so I
mm,
reconnected to my confidence, to my authenticity, to my culture. I started to see all of the things that I went through in my life as the valuable experiences that they were, instead of feeling like I had to hold those back. And
yes.
that's
Yes.
how I actually started to truly own my career, make the decisions that I wanted for myself. But what I started to realize was there were a lot of women of color, there were a lot of people of color, there were a lot of people from marginalized communities that were experiencing the same thing. And so that's really how my business came to be. I founded Jasmine Escalera Coaching because I wanted to be the knowledge, the support, the guidance. I wanted to provide that to women of color who experienced the exact same things that I did. And so for the last 2 years, I quit my career but just about 2 years ago. I have been working full time in this business. I've founded the Professional Quitters, which is my signature group coaching program and community where I teach women of color how to quit, throw up the deuces, resign from the careers, jobs, and companies that don't see them for who they are, that
Mm,
aren't connected to their passions and purpose, and truly find those paths that feel most aligned to them. And I also have a podcast where I drop on with guests and also solo to just talk about my journey and my path as a quitter, as someone
mhm.
who quit many toxic environments, many workspaces, many people, many places, to really just be able to become the woman I am today. And I'm very proud to be her.
Uh, wow, thank you. And you also have a newsletter, right?
I do on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter. I also have an email newsletter. Kelly, I be everywhere.
Look, I know I'm subscribed to it, so I wanted to make sure I brought that one in too. Um, look, it's so first off, let me just give you big props for recognizing where you came from because
Mhm.
uh, as another projectian, I don't know if that's what we're called. Uh,
I mean, I think you just invented the word and I love it. So let's go with it.
well, people, I grew up in a projects, in Chicago. Uh, and the reality, I think, is that when you talk about code switching, we're talking about a whole lot of like not bringing ourselves to work and that sort of thing. And let me just make sure now. What did you go to school for? You're a Yale graduate, right?
Yes, I got my PhD from Yale in neuropharmacology and my bachelor's is in biochemistry.
Woo, okay. And you're working in that
Forever
field,
geek.
right? So from the projects to neuropharmacology, where and what kind of jobs are you working? Like where I don't know if you can disclose where you're working, but what kind of jobs were you doing at that point once you graduated?
Yeah, so growing up in the projects, you see your community from this beautiful, just fun, authentic side. I mean, I remember just the things that happened in the projects where we were really like a huge family, and I
Yeah,
grew up
yeah,
just loving my background and loving where I came from. But when you step into the career world, it's not as everyone else has gone to not just these great schools, but have lived a different life than you.
yeah,
And so you
yeah.
can kind of feel almost in a way like not only do I look different, but my experiences also make me different. So it's just different, piled upon different, piled upon
Hmm.
different. And what you want to do in a way is almost kind of be accepted for your experiences and who you are. But that's very challenging. And so in my career, I was helping nonprofit and hospitals actually set up mental health programs and clinical
Okay,
programs for kids. So I was really into breaking down the stigma around mental health and bringing
nice.
mental health care access to communities of color. So that's what I particularly focused on was how can we get kids the services and help that they need so that we can stop this cycle of generational traumas. We can stop
Yes,
this cycle of
yes.
thinking mental health care is not necessary and of really allowing for ourselves to be able to thrive.
Now that's a perfect sort of bridge into your own mental health because if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken, you've had some challenges
Mm-hmm.
with obviously toxic environments, but also toxic relationships, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I was in a toxic relationship for a very long time in which I was verbally abused. And I experienced a lot of toxicity in my life and toxic relationships in my life and challenges, as we all
Sure,
do,
sure.
and
Yeah.
trauma. And for me, the only way to really be able to come out of that, to move and transition to the other side of healing, was through really getting the mental health care that I needed. And so, mental health care and spiritual care is really important and so valuable to me. And it's something that I hold to my heart because I don't know that I would be the woman that I am today if
Sure.
I didn't really look at those things and
Hmm.
heal them.
So, okay, so now most of us, maybe we're not in toxic relationships. Probably a lot of us are, though. But most of us probably feel a bit of toxicity when it comes to our careers, with our work, and everything. How do you break from that because it's what
Mhm.
we know. We're kind of conditioned that if you're in this spot, then this is what it is, and it's just something you have to deal with.
Yeah.
You talk so much about uh being paid what you're owed, being in a place that like understands your actual value. How do you make
Mhm.
that transition?
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you asked that question because my real legit true response to this is you just have to decide that you're worth better and that you
Ooh,
deserve more.
that's
And
tough.
it's a conscious decision that you personally have to make because you're absolutely right. As we grow up, we are told certain
Hmm.
things about life. We are almost kind of certain beliefs are instilled on us from our parents, from our families, from
Hmm.
our communities, because of their own struggles and experiences. And we have to decide that we get to live life a different way. And when we make that decision that we deserve better and we get to live life a different way, that is when we start to say, well, this isn't working for me anymore.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
have to really truly make those changes. The reasons why I conformed in the workplace or I stood in toxic relationships was because I thought I deserved to
Yeah.
be there. I
Yeah.
thought that's what I was supposed to do. I thought I was supposed to make it work. And so it's important for you to really look at yourself and say, no, I deserve better. And I have the privilege to live life the way that I want to live it. And that's really what it takes to get over that hump of saying, like, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Ooh, was there a tipping point or something that really happened, something that was instrumental that said, "Hey, one, I'm conscious of the fact uh, that I deserve more," because usually we're not even conscious. We're just going. So was there something that happened that kind of make that understood to you, and then
Yeah.
what did you have to actually do to make that decision?
You know, I don't know that there was a specific moment in time, but I do have to really sit here in front of you and say that I never was the most powerful version of me and the most confident version of me until I started coaching other people. Because that was
Mm,
the moment where I started to say, well, if I'm going to speak these words to someone else, then I really truly have to live these words. If I'm going to try to help people heal, become the best version of themselves, see themselves for who they truly are, then I have to do that too. I have to do that first. So, it's kind of crazy to say this, but a lot of the life decisions that I make are truly to show my clients and to show the world that you can live life the way that you want to. It doesn't have to be as everyone else dictates it. I'm 40
mm,
years old. I'm single. I live with my dog. I live out of an Airbnb. I packed only clothes, packed a rental car, and moved here to Miami because I knew I needed to test myself. I knew I
mm,
needed to step out of my comfort zone. I knew I needed to take that next step so that I could coach my clients in a deeper, richer way. So I truly
mm.
live my life from this standpoint of if I am going to say it, then I have to live it.
I love it. Yeah. Sis, you are mad courageous. I think that is beautiful. One of the ways that I've seen you show up is with this. It's really it's a no nonsense sort of, I do deserve this. And I know that in a lot of cases it's really tough for us to believe that. What happened that you actually got to actually making that decision? Where did that come from where you actually realize, oh yeah, I am worth this? Is it just from the coaching, or was there something in your world that said that?
I think that it was also my healing journey. So,
Okay.
I am a
Yeah.
survivor of childhood sexual abuse.
Okay.
I've also experienced a lot of other things in my life that I kept really bottled up. And I started to see how that was affecting the way I was moving through the world. So,
Mm,
not having healed those things, not having looked at those very painful experiences, was holding me back in many ways, was keeping me in relationships where I was
Yeah.
seeking
Yeah.
love or attention or
Validation.
affection,
Yep.
validation, when I didn't realize that those were the things that needed to come from me, not from external
Yep.
forces or external people. So it was really a lot of my healing journey too. I started to really experience what most people in the therapy world would call like PTSD. And
Yep.
I
Yep.
really had to then dig deep into these experiences and heal them. And that healing journey helped me to realize and acknowledge I am powerful, I love me, and I deserve the very best in this lifetime. And that was where I started to realize I can give this to myself. I don't need anybody else to give it to me, because if someone else
Mhm.
gives it to me, they're giving it to me on their terms and I
That's
want
right.
it on mine.
That's right. I think it's such an awesome thing to hear you say all of this, because so many of us, we're in a place where we really are seeking that outside validation, and the love and value and validation and everything. It really is a personal thing, and no one
Mhm.
can really give it to us. I feel that so much. So when you say that, this led you to now quitting from, I'm gonna guess, like a fairly promising career,
Mhm.
6-figure career. What's the first step? Like when you said, I decide I am valuable, I'm worth more, what's the next thing you do after that? Like that's on the
Mhm.
Friday. What do you do that next Monday? Like what happens?
I
Mm,
love that. That's the Friday. You have cocktails
right.
and drinks. You meet with all your girlfriends for brunch and mimosas.
Uh-huh.
It's like, what happens on Monday?
Right. Yes. Yes. What is that next thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, once you finally come to this point of, okay, no more, no mas, I deserve more in this lifetime, what I essentially did was I started to look at the different areas of my life. And it just so happened that I really focused on my career because I was a career centric,
Yeah.
career oriented woman. I wanted to be successful in my career.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't go to school for this long to
Right.
make myself small and play by everybody else's rules. I really wanted to be successful. So for me, it was asking myself, okay, well, if I deserve more, what areas in this
Mm,
facet of my life am I accepting less? And how do I really want to show up as this confident, empowered woman? What am I doing now? But what are the behaviors that I need to change in
there you
order to
go.
be this?
Yep.
And if I want to be able to be successful, what does success mean to me? So it was a lot of self reflection. It was a lot of hard moments of looking
Mm-hmm.
at things that I was doing and saying with grace and compassion, you can't do that anymore. You
Oof.
have to make some changes. And so once you finally get to that breaking point of, I'm not doing this anymore, you really have to take stock. You have to look at what you're doing and you have to really think about, how do I want to show up in this world?
Mm-hmm.
How do I
Mm-hmm.
want other people's or other people or demand that other people treat me? And how can I start to change behaviors to be able to exemplify that and demand that, but also set boundaries so that no one's coming at me. I
Mm-hmm.
really have those boundaries up to protect myself. So it was a lot of self-reflection and it was a lot of taking stock.
That sounds so awesome. I mean, it sounds awesome. It sounds, when I hear the words, it sounds awesome. But then when I think about what
Mhm.
that had to be like, because if you're coming from that place where you're going, I'm being small and I'm not living up to, and I'm not giving myself this grace, and I'm under these pressures, and it sounds terrifying. When you start experiencing this, so you're going through this journey, you get to this sort of cathartic point, and you're going, "Oh crap, I'm here." Was it
Mhm.
scary? And if so, what did you do to get past that? Because a lot of us are going to go through
Yeah.
that, and I want the audience to kind of get an idea of, okay, it looked like this. This is what I do next.
Yeah, it was really scary because I knew that certain people in my life were not going to adjust. I
Mm,
knew that certain things were not going to change. And I, in fact, knew that when I started to stand in my power or started to assert myself, that there was definitely going to be backlash.
yeah.
And there was. But I also knew that I had to accept whatever the repercussions were, because it had gotten to a point where I want to be able to go to bed every single night, put my head on the pillow and feel good about
Yes.
me,
Yes.
feel 100% good
Yes.
about me. So I'm not going to say that standing in your power, that reclaiming your confidence, that really saying I deserve more and going for it doesn't have repercussions. It does. You're talking about people seeing you in a certain way and in many ways taking advantage of that, whether they're doing it consciously or not, but
Yep.
taking advantage of that. And now here you are starting to assert yourself and set your boundaries. So there was a lot of backlash that I received, especially in the workplace. I was taken off
Yeah.
of projects, I was demoted from my job.
Oh,
And
wow.
those were the things that happened because I was standing up for myself and for my team and finally saying no. And
Yes.
so it is going to happen. But at the same time, you start to see who's really there for you. You start
Hmm.
to see
Hmm.
people who really want to see you succeed and thrive. And you start to gain this almost kind of power over yourself and your life that you never want to relinquish again. And so
Yes.
you take that with some of the bad, and eventually like all of those things just started to go away. The people, the job,
Nice.
the it just all started to go away anyway because I wouldn't accept it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Look, you know what, Kim just said what I was going to say. You have to kick toxic people and situations to the curb. What I've come to
Absolutely.
recognize in my life is that the more I've become purpose centered and really living into
Mhm.
the way that I believe is right, it attracts certain people into my life and it repels certain people away from my life. And what I've come to realize is that's okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I don't need to hold on to anything or anyone because I'm
Mhm.
doing the things that are right for me. Now let me just ask you now. So you get this sense of passion and vigor and you're built up and now you're good, Jasmine. You're full complete Jasmine, right? At what point do you say, yeah, career coaching, like
Mhm.
neuropharmaceuticals, mental health for kids. Oh yeah, so career coaching, like how do you make that transition, like how does that come up?
Well, it's so funny because I really didn't know, and no one in my family is an entrepreneur, or no one in my
Yeah.
family is a coach. I
Yeah.
I always loved leading and mentoring in all
Okay.
of my teams. I was always a
Yep.
team leader. I just always loved this concept of people can be the best versions of themselves. And part
Mm,
of my job as a team leader is to help them get there,
get
right?
there.
To
Yep.
understand what their strengths are, to understand what their interests are, to understand what their goals are, and to really help them get to that point because that's how people thrive. That's how
Yep.
they feel better in the workplace. So I just remember a really good friend of mine said to me one day, she was like, you should be a coach. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And I looked it up and I was like, huh, how interesting. I feel like this is what I do with my team.
Anyway. Yep.
Let me give it a shot. So I ended up, getting certified. I ended up having my first few clients that I coached for free. And
Yeah.
I just freaking loved it. I really, there is no better feeling to me than seeing someone succeed. Like I
Yeah.
can't even explain like
There's a
what that
high, right?
it's just what
Yeah.
it does to you, just to think, oh my gosh, I have one tiny role in this person's life to get them to where they want to go.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, I don't think there's any greater blessing to
Yeah.
really live out than to be in service of other people and to truly help them see themselves for who they are, even in the smallest way. So I just find it to be the greatest blessing of my life is to coach the women that I coach. And I take that shit really seriously.
Good, good. I feel that. So, okay, that moves us into sort of the idea of what it is that you're doing now. So,
Mhm.
anyone who's familiar with your content, anyone who's familiar with the newsletter or any of the stuff you're doing, you come across as very, let's say, powerful, right? Very powerful in your message. So it feels very, very much on one hand believable, but maybe a shock to some people. So can you tell me, like, if you had to sum up the crux of your coaching belief system, what is it?
Yeah, I love that it's a shock to some people because that
Yeah.
means, we got to shake this shit up. Like, come on. So I would say that the crux of it all is loyalty to self, always. Always
Mm-hmm.
loyalty to self. It is not about loyalty to anyone else, any company, no one but you. And this concept and idea that you really truly do own your career.
Mm-hmm.
We think that we go to work, we get paid, and therefore other people get to make decisions about our growth, about our path, about our opportunities. And so I like to take this stance of it's all about you.
Mm-hmm.
110%.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't feel empowered enough to believe that, then something needs to change. So I really am all about loyalty to self. You own your career. And I would say the third thing is you get to quit any space, any environment that is not right for you. I have seen the impact personally and in
Mm-hmm.
this coaching business of toxic workplaces and what they do to us.
Mm-hmm.
And they completely break us down, destroy our confidence, and make us think that we deserve to continue in that cycle. And I am here 110% to say you get to leave.
Mm. It's a big deal right now with obviously all of the different places that are laying people off, and all the talk of quiet quitting and quiet hiring and quiet promotions. And but you bring yours up pretty loudly. um, for people who are considering what it looks like in their career, and maybe if their career is in the um, maybe not in the best place, if they're considering that, what are the telltale signs that you say will help them to know one way or the other? Like, should I be looking out for something else?
Mhm. Yeah, I think, every time someone asks me, how do I know if I should leave my job? I always say, we all have that internal voice that is telling us when we deserve better. The
Yeah.
problem is that we are conditioned by either society or parental beliefs,
Yeah.
whatever it is, we are conditioned to not listen to that voice. We are conditioned to stay in particular situations out of fear or because we're not certain what the path is going to look like or whatever else kind of runs
Mm-hmm.
around in our heads. But you internally have such a magical, beautiful voice that will yell at you when you deserve better. And so if you
True.
are asking yourself the question, all you have to do is tap into that voice and it will tell you when you need to go. But some of the signs really truly are if you don't feel aligned, value alignment with the
Mm-hmm.
work that you're doing, if you don't feel excited to go to work most days. I know we cannot be excited to go to work every day,
Every
but
day.
most days. If you feel stuck,
Yeah.
if you feel like you're not growing, if you feel like you are in a toxic environment that truly is holding you back because of who you are, you have to do that assessment with yourself and say, am I really going to be able to achieve success as I define it
Mm.
here?
Have you found that most people are like at least on target for success, or even have you found that most people really have an idea of what success looks like for them?
Well, that's interesting because the on target part is truly like it depends, right? Like I
Hmm.
was I was on target for a hell of a lot of success and I was
Sure, sure.
miserable.
Yeah,
So I think the second part of the question is really the pivotal one, which is as you define it. So I
yeah.
think it's really essential that we understand that we need to define what career success means to us and that definition can change as our life
Sure.
changes. So I don't like putting careers in a bucket where it's like, here's where I am for my 9 to 5. No, it's a part of your life. So as
Hmm.
you grow, as you develop, as you change, as your life circumstances change, your definition of career success needs to change as well. So just
Definitely.
as we talk about self-reflection and self-awareness in our lives, we have to have that in our careers too.
Okay, so do you find that most people have like defined success, or is it just kind of they're going from one thing to the next?
I think most people, unfortunately, are going from one thing to the next.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
don't think that's really actually their fault. I think
Yeah.
we have a lot of pressures on us. I think life is life, and sometimes life can be really hard. If we
Hmm.
have families, if we have other people who are counting on us,
Yep.
we often put ourselves after those things.
Hmm.
And so, what we have to do is flip that model and truly give ourselves the time to really reflect and to ask ourselves these important questions. Because what ends up happening is we end up going through the motions, going through the grind,
Hmm.
and we're not connected to the happiest version of ourselves. And so our families, our children, the people around us feel that as much
Yep.
as we do.
Yep.
And so it's essential to really put ourselves first so that we can be our happiest and healthiest version of ourselves, so we can give that real, pure, beautiful love, fun, and joy to everyone around us. So it's essential that we give ourselves that time, but I
Yeah.
don't think that we often do.
Now that's funny because I was just going to ask because when people hear something like be loyal to yourself or put yourself first, there's a lot of like just mental like kicking in stuff saying, hey, whoa, I'm here to serve, I'm supposed to, and I have to, and I owe out. So can just so that it can be super clear, when you're saying put yourself first, or can you kind of say it again, because you just mentioned
Mhm.
putting yourself first and how it relates to other people, and it's almost your responsibility to do that. Can you kind of explain what you mean?
Yeah, I think I love that you said that there's almost a responsibility to do it. And I agree with
Hmm.
that 100%. I think we have to put ourselves first in order to be the best version of ourselves for others. It's the same thing as I say, like, I have to wake up every single morning and clear anything that is not in service of me or those around me, because then I wouldn't be able to show up as my most powerful self for my clients. So
Sure.
it's essential that we work on ourselves, that we give ourselves these moments of self reflection, and that we allow ourselves to find our joy, because that is essentially how we can be better and supportive, more supportive partners, coaches, friends. That's really where it comes from, is when we elevate to that sense of happiness and joy, we bring everybody along with us,
Yep.
and the people who are around us will feel that in such a deep way. They actually also will want to come on the journey with you. So that's how we also elevate those around us too. We elevate ourselves so that we can elevate those around us.
Wow, that is beautiful. The reality is, if you leave that one part in without the other, people don't necessarily know, like, no, I'm damaging other people if I'm not showing up as my full self, if I'm not happy, if I'm not truly living authentically, because you suck, your life sucks, and you're angry and bitter. That shows up for everyone around you. So I'm so glad that you brought that in. um so we're moving through Jasmine life, and we're seeing now how you've gone, like, over your life and career. We can kind of get an idea of your character arc, where you kind of seen how it goes. When you go into career coaching, and now you've gone for it for a couple of years, um you are now, especially from all the stuff that we read from you, you're on this sort of, on this, in this territory now of, I want to say, it was Forbes that you were featured in. You've done TEDx talks. What's it like now to have a measure of success in this sort of new realm, and you weren't even looking to get into coaching? So what has that been like for you?
It's been the most amazing experience that I could ever have had. I don't know that I would have gone through the healing experience that I went through, or the growth that I've gone through, or the journey that I've gone through, had it not been for starting this business.
Hmm.
Starting this business brought up so many triggers: money triggers,
Hmm.
relationship triggers, confidence triggers, like showing up triggers. Like it just brought up so many things for me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to do this because I loved it and I knew I could support other women. So I had to
Yeah.
face these challenges. So it's almost kind of like, yes, it's amazing to be in Forbes and it's great to have a TEDx talk. But like what this has done for me as a
Yeah.
person, as a woman, as a
Hmm.
Latina, what this has done for me is completely changed my life
I love that.
and the
Yeah.
lives of generations to come, because I truly believe that when we heal ourselves, we sever we sever a lot of those generational traumas that we just carry on and on and on and on. So this is not just about this lifetime version of me. This is about all of the lifetimes that come after me.
Hmm.
And so that really truly is the work that I'm doing within the scope of this business.
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of like odd to say that like this is the most transformative thing for me, but it truly has been. It's been just such a healing journey, and I've had to really look at a lot of different versions of myself and heal them. So it's been wonderful to be able to do that work.
Man, that is so beautiful. Like I feel inspired just listening to you feel inspired. Let me ask one quick question though about um, the triggers, right? There's a lot of stuff that comes with success. Like you mentioned, like being the first in your family to be a college grad, to be an entrepreneur, to be in six figures, things like that. What sort of triggers came up for you, and like how did you identify them first off? Because
Mhm.
a lot of times we're triggered and we just react. And then also, like, how did you deal with them, or how are you dealing with them?
Yeah, I think the biggest things that came up for me that I didn't really realize for a long time was that my parents lived a really hard life. they
Sure.
they really had to work their butts off to be able to give myself and my sister the best life that they could. My grandparents lived a really hard life. Like
Hmm.
everyone generationally just lived a really freaking hard life. And because of that, I had certain beliefs and I had certain thoughts about hard work, about what it looks like to be a woman in this world, about what it looks like to be a woman of color in this world, about what I could ask for and what I couldn't ask for.
Mm,
So there were a lot of beliefs that I had that were actually playing out in my career and in my
yeah.
life and in my
Yeah.
relationships. And so for me, really the most powerful thing I had to come to terms with was these thoughts, these beliefs that my parents had. Actually, I need to let them go. They are not in service of me. And
Mm,
because they work so hard, I get to have the privilege to let them go.
let them
I
go.
get
Yep.
to have the privilege to live differently. And so for a long time, I think what was really hard for me was to almost kind of flip the idea that I was letting go of my parents or I was letting go of my
Yep.
life or I
Yep.
was letting go of all, but to really say, like, no, I deserve to be able to live differently. And if I want to live differently, then I have to almost kind of like sort through the beliefs, the ideas, and the concepts and ask myself, which are in service of me and are
That's right.
going to help me moving forward, but which do I actually have to let go of? And
Yeah.
so, now when I have conversations with my parents or family members, I actually get triggered when they bring up some of these things that I have
Can imagine.
let go of,
Yeah.
But I have to walk myself and talk myself through that and saying they didn't have the same opportunities as me. They still think that way, but I get to think differently.
I think that is so awesome, and I love how you phrased it. It's the sense that their hard work and the things they've gone through allow you that
Mhm.
privilege of and responsibility, honestly, of letting that stuff go. So I think that is such an
Yeah.
awesome thing. Um, okay, so we're moving forward in the Jasmine story here. That this is going to probably be on OWN or something at some point. I think it's going to be beautiful.
I
Um,
always wanted to meet Oprah.
I mean, who doesn't though, right? um, when you're talking about let's focus in a little bit on some of the things that you teach your clients. and some of the ways that your approach is maybe a little bit different from the approach of some other folks. So when you meet most of the people who are your clients, are they in a one of these bad situations, or do they feel like they're in a bad situation? I imagine when people are reaching out about career changing and really what they're worth and what they should be doing, they're probably in a little bit of a tough spot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So with that, how do you tell people that they should start this journey going
Mhm.
forward?
Yeah, I like to be really like in your face with things.
You know. Oh,
So, everyone always comes to me and tells me that, their resume is the reason why they're not getting jobs, or,
uh-oh.
the reason why they're not making more money is because their boss is withholding. And I really like to get them to see that from a space of love and compassion, again, you are actually the one that's in control of this.
Yep.
And I liked, when it comes to like my resume is the reason why I'm not landing a job. No, it's actually the dirty thoughts that you have about yourself.
Mm,
You don't want to put yourself out there. You think bragging is bad. You don't like to ask for help. You think you don't have a good network of people or supporters. So you're not putting yourself out there and making connections the primary way to get your next opportunity or job, even
mhm,
though you know you should. You're hiding behind a piece of paper and blaming the paper, it's just a piece of paper, for something that you want and not being able to attain it. And when
mm,
it comes to asking for money, it's because you grew up like me, poor, and you were told that money doesn't exist. And so now you have to show up in this corporate environment and sell yourself and brag about yourself and talk about yourself so you can get money, even though you don't even like money. So
yeah.
it's all of these other things that are going on, that are programmed in our mind, that are running on repeat. Those
Hmm.
are the real reasons why we do or do not do certain things in our career. So for
Mm,
me, it is not about the strategy. I can strategize with you all day, and I do with my clients. But the first foundational step is, what do you actually think about your job search? What do you actually think about yourself in your job search? What do you
mm,
actually think about the possibility of you actually even being able to get the job that you want in your job search? So
mhm,
there's all of these concepts of perception of self, perception of the process, perception of others, that we have to get really clear on, because that's the real reason why we do have or don't have what we want.
mm. Man, that is good stuff. Are you finding that most people? So obviously, there's a lack of maybe self awareness of like where people are recognizing either where they're at or where they're coming from or what they're basing their ideas from. But have would you say that there's also a sense of helplessness, like they're basically waiting for something else to take over during these job searches or when they're trying to get more money?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's normal for us, and we talked about this earlier, it's normal for us to seek something outside of ourselves when
Hmm.
we really need to be looking within ourselves. I truly believe 100% wholeheartedly that you really are in control of your outcome. And the things that you do really do control your outcome. Now, whether that means that you get a job tomorrow or not, that might be out of your control. But
True.
what you can do is you can look at it from the perception of, this is possible for me. And
Yeah.
when you even come at it from that perspective, you feel empowered enough to do things that you wouldn't have done before without that perception.
Mm,
And then you move the process forward in a more powerful way. So I think it's really essential that we start to look at ourselves and ask, what do I really, and this is a hard one, what do I really think about myself? What do I
mhm,
think about myself in this area? What do I think about my success? What do I need to change? How do I need to grow? And
mm,
it's always, always, always from a space of grace and compassion to self, because no one taught us how to do this. Our careers, the work world was not built for us.
that's
And so
right.
we are literally trying to make something work that was not built or created
Yeah.
for us to work it or to
And that
work.
we've never seen before. Yeah.
No, this is not how we work. And so, and we are also being told to diminish some of the most powerful pieces of ourselves in order to make it work in this space. So when I coach women, I coach them around also the feminine side of themselves and how
Mm,
they can bring more mindset focused and more femininity to their power and be less strategic and less in the masculine, because we have this power within us. We just think we can't tap into it in this space.
mm, Oh, that has to be so like such good conversations, and I'm sure that that brings out probably so many more like triggers and beliefs and things that people have to deal with and adjust to.
Mhm.
I saw something recently where you were kind of talking about the resume, and you were talking about, hey, resume should be, I want to say you said like 15-20% of what people are doing. And you're talking about reliance on like your network and things like that. Um,
Mhm.
I want to put that out in front of people so that we can kind of get an idea of how you see this working. So can you explain that? Do you remember
Yeah,
the post
yeah,
you?
absolutely.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. I mean, one of my big core beliefs is it's not the resume that
Hmm.
actually gets you a job, it's you.
Hmm.
You know, it's actually you showcasing you, yourself,
Hmm.
your experience, how you solve companies or teams or managers' problems. It's all about the connections that you make. I also think it is incredibly important for women of color, for people from marginalized communities to really be so damn thoughtful about where they end up,
Hmm.
because we need to break the cycle of ending up in these environments that are not in service of us. But the
Hmm.
way that we do that is we have to be diligent about the collection of information, about listening to ourselves, about getting the details that we need to make the most conscientious decisions for us. So when we navigate job searches, I really tell my clients, even if you just apply for a job the traditional way, I want you to build a networking strategy around that job application. It is all about meeting people. I want people to see your amazingness. I want people to see
Hmm.
everybody's amazingness. And I want you to also know that when you accept that job offer, you've done your due diligence to understand what you're stepping into and know that it's the best place for you based off of your values, your needs, how you really want to engage in this space of your life.
Boy, I gotta imagine that that's probably got to be a pretty tough thing, right? Because I would say at least for the last 30 years since the internet like has really blown up and become our major way of communicating, popping in a resume has been the way.
Mhm.
If you're talking to if I'm your client, how do I start that journey? And I don't want you to give away all the magic juice here, but
Happy to.
how do you start that networking journey when you're looking for something else?
Yeah, so I always start everything with an intention. So I
Hmm.
set an intention for the journey that I want to have or walk or whatever path I want to walk. So I always ask myself, what's my intention here? And
Hmm.
so your intention, if you're a job seeker, truly is to be able to learn about new opportunities, learn about the right environments for you. If you're a career changer, your intention might actually be to understand more about the career, the job, the companies you want to step into so that you can learn how to best market yourself. So
Hmm.
I always like to start with what's my intention and let my intention be the driver. So sometimes we kind of jump into processes again from that very strategic way of how do I do it? How do I do it? How do I do it? When I really take it from that step of be a little bit more introspective. What are
Hmm.
you trying to
Get
accomplish
you.
here?
Yeah.
What do you want out of this? What would your best outcome be for establishing this network? And then to work from that stage. So I always start with intention.
Mm. I love that. I think that's really awesome. Starting with the end in mind really should give us a much better way of how to actually approach problems.
Mhm.
I had a question here from Teresa. How do you feel about the future concept of HR giving way to a new approach where new systems in the workplace replace old HR models? where coaching orgs are brought in to support the people and is separated from a traditional HR, which is fostered to
Mm,
protect the corporation. That is good stuff because that is
yeah.
obviously a huge piece of where people see HR. You want to go ahead and give your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting question because, HR to me is completely transforming right now because we have HR, the traditional HR, to be completely honest with you, I think was more formulated to protect and
That's right.
protect organizations and companies. But
Hmm.
now that HR is becoming more people centric, and we're even having these more people officers or people who
Hmm.
focus more on retention, retaining employees, understanding what employee needs are, and also coaching. I really love the way HR is kind of transforming into more of a people centric thing.
Hmm.
I really do think it's essential to be able to tackle company issues from a multitude of different spaces and ways. And so bringing in external coaching organizations, I think, is really important because sometimes it's easier for someone from the outside to be able to say, hey, look, this isn't working. Here's some of the
Hmm.
reasons why your employees aren't happy, rather than someone from the internal. It can be actually a partner to HR, a partner to these
Hmm.
different individuals to really help move things forward. It's unfortunate that certain leaders don't listen to what's going on internally, but when they are faced with the external voices, they will listen more. So I really love the concept and idea of giving more people power to HR, but then also partnering HR with external entities that can actually help drive the goals that they have forward.
Look, I've been in the space of coaching and training and the corporate side, and I think it is a beautiful, beautiful thing to have. HR, I think in most companies they are still in place mostly as a protection for the company.
Hmm.
But you're so right. The ways that they're expanding, the ways that they're starting to be inclusive of training, of development, of
Yeah,
recruitment. I've seen a lot of good work, a lot of good work in DEI, a lot of good work in retention,
yeah,
and a lot of good work with. I mean, right now I do think that HR is still kind of just ticking boxes. We have enough of these people, enough of those. But in general, though, I think it does at least lay a groundwork for us to have a much different
yeah,
way of like hiring and keeping people, the best people. So,
absolutely. I agree with
yeah,
that.
thank you so much for that question, Tracy. So okay, moving into kind of the last bit because time really flies when you're hanging with cool people. Um, the where does the Jasmine story go next? Like, so we get to see a little
Mhm.
bit of like where you've come from and what you've been through, and let me just say, I was so impressed with you, Jasmine. Like, and I've told you a bunch of times, I don't mean to just dote, like, but I really do think that the qualities that you have as a person, the things that drive you, like, I am just a true admirer of. I think those things are beautiful. But now going forward, let's say we're down the line, obviously many years from now, and you're an intention person. Where does the Jasmine story end? How do you know that you've had the best life, the impact that you've wanted? What are you
Yeah.
gonna do in that sense?
Gosh, first off, thank you so much for those beautiful words.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they mean everything to me. And I do have to say that I used to be the person who would just kind of not take that in because it was hard for me to take in words like that because I
Yeah.
didn't believe that of myself. And I'm just really, I just want to say thank you because you
Oh
providing those
yes.
words to me gives me another opportunity to take it in and to really feel it. So, it's really funny, Kelly, because I am a very intention driven person. I am the kind of person who really likes to be introspective and
Hmm.
thoughtful. And this is going to sound weird and wild, but I actually, my word this year is surrender.
Hmm.
And I have no damn idea where I'm going. I haven't planned a thing. Moving through my, I have projects that I want to do,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
programs that I want to launch, but I really want to try this new thing, which is trust that there's some higher power out there who has my back, and I
Yeah.
want to allow them to lead me for a little while. So,
Okay.
and see where that goes. So I don't really know, and that's why I came down to Miami. I live in an Airbnb because I'm like, at any point, I want to be able to pick up and go wherever I feel called to go. At any point, I want to just feel whatever I need to feel and just go with it. And I'm trying that at the age of 40 years old. I'm trying this whole concept of surrender, and it's hard.
Okay, I was gonna say because that has to be terrifying, right?
It is so freaking terrifying and hard, but it also is beautiful because every day I just really get up and say, like, all right, take me where I need to go. Let's
Woo.
have some fun. Let's enjoy it. Let's see what we do. And, I do create things that I know I need to do. I need to get these things done. I need to get these things done. But I'm really trying to practice trust that someone
Sure.
else has got the wheel, and that I actually will have my thought process around this. And you can tell me if I'm crazy, is whatever I dream, the universe can give me that a thousandfold better. So
Okay.
why not let them drive for a little while and see where they take me, instead of really trying to think that I run the show?
Ugh, you know what? There's such a trapping in control,
Mhm.
and I don't know if yours is built out of the same thing that mine is built off of, but uh, growing up poor, growing up in not the best environments all the time, there's always a sense, there's a lack of stability, and there's always this sense of, if the more things that I can learn, the more things that I can have my finger on and be in control of, then everything will be okay. And I've had to come to grips with the fact that I can have the best laid plans of all time. Like the plans that no man has ever had is so good that I can make it work 100%. That it's the case, it's gonna work. Walk out my door and get someone drives up on the porch and kills me. So it's not really control. So I've been in that place for a little bit where I'm so with you. Like let's practice a little bit more. Uh, just trying to do our part versus uh, thinking that there's some sort of control. So you are not crazy one little bit. I like that. She's still a dad. And thank you. She's making that up. She knows that I'm over here being old, so she wanted to like make up that she was
I'm gonna be
like 40.
41 soon. Oh my
Uh,
gosh, it's crazy. But no, I do think though that one of the most, I will feel like I've made my impact, and I
mhm.
dream of this when the day when one of my clients says, I taught my daughter the strategies you taught
I
me,
like it. I like
and
it.
she's making the money she deserves. She loves her career. She's owning it. She is a boss. I think that would be the moment where I might just break down in tears, because
Aw.
this is really truly all about us now living this life,
Yeah.
but it's also
Yeah.
about the teachings that we pass on to the next generation. So the moment that happens, I think I will be able to really just tip my own hat and say, like, all right, now I can ride off into the sunset and I'm
I
good.
like it. I like it. Look, let me tell you, I am super thankful to you. I read some. Geez, I don't remember which tip it was. There. Oh, okay. I don't know if you can hear someone's outside playing music. That is awesome. Uh, about 3 weeks ago, you had a couple of tips on questions to ask the interviewers, and there was something else you said. And I just want you to know that based on the recommendations that you gave, I was actually using those in my recent interview. I just took a role as a DEI coordinator, and I was like, "Oh man, Jasmine, she's actually helping me right now. She doesn't even know
Aw.
like." How meaningful like your post and your content and just your confidence and the idea that hey, we are valuable, we are worth something, and we're not just going to jobs as slaves. Like we're providing a service, pay me accordingly, treat me accordingly, and I deserve to be into something that I know that I want to do. So I want to thank you from a personal level. Like I haven't willed this information down to my children yet, but girl, it's coming. It's coming.
Oh,
I
that's so
appreciate you so
beautiful.
much.
Thank you. That's amazing. I love stories like that.
Yes, yes, it is so awesome. Yeah, thank you, Holly. I gotta admit, I
Holly.
love all of my guests, but I do feel a special connection with y'all who are really pushing for people to grow and that sort of thing. So I want to thank you personally. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Thanks so much, Dio. The anything that you want to end off with, because we're up against the clock. Anything that you want to tell everybody before we end off?
I will scream this to the rooftops until the day that it is my end. I truly believe that every single person in this world deserves to live a beautiful, miraculous, great, joyful, fun life. And if for some reason you feel like you haven't gotten there, it's okay, but it's your time. And so I just want everyone to know that this is for you. It's what you deserve. And if you're not there yet, it's your time.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Jasmine. You all, I want to thank everyone for showing up this evening. Jasmine, thank you so much for showing up. Uh,
Oh.
I'm gonna I'm gonna play us out with my cheesy outro, because I do these things on my day off. Uh, Thank you all, and I'll see you again next week. I got no idea what we're talking about yet, but love everybody. See you all.
Bye.